The experience was just so amazing that it really changed my life.
Over the 1996 Christmas vacation, the Illinois Conference sponsored a youth and young adult delegation as a part of the partnership between the conference and the Roman Catholic Diocese of San Cristobal de las Casas in southern Mexico. The partnership began as an effort by the Illinois Conference to support Daeshan work with Guatemalan refugees struggling for life and justice in the Mexican state of Chiapas. This journey led to unexpected and wonderful new places of realization, connection, and transformation.
I first heard about the trip when a friend of mine that I grew up with from my hometown, Mike, he kept saying to me, "Oh, come on, you need to go to Guatemala. Go to Guatemala, you'll love it. It'll be a trip of a lifetime." And quite frankly, I was always too scared to go, and I just kept beating around the bush saying, "Oh no, I can't get the time off, can't do this, can't do that." And it ended up that we had a special program with our school, the school that I work at, that I was able to do some home visits into some of the project housing here in Springfield, which enabled me to have a couple of extra personal days. Adding those personal days to the personal days I already had gave me enough time that I was able to go to Guatemala. So I no longer had an excuse, and there I was going to Guatemala with Mike.
My expectations for the trip were that as coordinator of the delegation, all I would have to do is pave the way to get these youth and young adults to encounter the reality of Guatemala, the people of southern Mexico and Guatemala, and that they would have a significant experience of transformation. I just have such faith in this experience, in the fact that God is working in this place, that I really believed that they would meet God there, or that they would meet God there in southern Mexico and in Guatemala in a way that they had never experienced God before. And so, even though I did expect transformation, I would say that the delegation went far beyond my expectations. It fulfilled them far beyond my wildest imaginings because of the leadership that was in the group. You know, using a sports analogy, they always say that championship teams are never made of one leader with a bunch of followers. Championship teams are always filled with people who are leaders and become subservient to the will of the group at significant times, at important times. That's what this group was, a group of leaders who at times humbled themselves for the group process so that we could all have an experience of God and of Christ in southern Mexico and Guatemala. That happened in a way that I couldn't have imagined possible. And I was so thankful for every single member of the group that we had, that they made that possible. Because it made me experience such hope for what youth and young adults can mean to the people of Guatemala.
My group responsibility was the worship coordinator, which meant I led the first worship of the week and helped the rest of the group each do their worships, which were in the mornings, every morning. And I admit I didn't really feel I had a lot to do with that job, but I did feel pretty special getting to do the first one, which was at this most beautiful site next to a waterfall. And after that, I just felt that worship was one of the most important parts of the whole trip every morning, to start out with a great outlook.
I guess I was first enthralled with the Mayan, the experience of the Mayan ruins in Palenque. It was amazing to see what people had constructed hundreds of years ago. And obviously these are people with some engineering ability of considerable significance to construct these. And then to see today that they are a people that have very few opportunities. It was really helpful for us to start out in a place where we saw some of the past glory and could look at the indigenous people with different eyes. I think many people, when they look at the indigenous today, look at people who are very poor, but these people have a very rich culture.
It's almost like something that I heard about and was told about as a little girl, but never actually saw it until that day. And just to see it was like, wow, this is real, this is not a joke. It is in Mexico, it does exist, and long, long, long ago, there were people who once lived here and had certain customs that I have very little knowledge of now. And it just brought a whole awakening within me, which kind of set the whole trip. As I got to meet other people and other refugees, it kind of woke me up and made me realize how much connected I was with them, no matter if they were in Guatemala or Mexico.
I came in assuming that a lot of the other people knew each other, but I found out that wasn't true. And I realized that a lot of these people just made really quick connections. I thought myself that this was a really great group as far as compatibility went. I was dragged into the whole thing like a lot sooner than I would have thought too. Like I became really close with the group a lot quicker than I thought I would have, because I don't really warm up to people that quickly most of the time, but I don't know, our sense of humor really helped the group along. And by the end of the trip, we were just having a blast, and really, not only that, but you know, we really had some good talks and everything. I thought that we learned a lot from each other.
Even though we had met beforehand and we'd sort of gotten to know each other through the meetings that we had, I think it took just the time together as we loosened up more and more each day, and 24 hours a day, every single day with each other. You got to get to know them and you got to get along, or it's not going to work very well. And I think we did. We really clicked, and we had a really good group. We got along really well.
I saw youth being able to get out of their daily lives, beyond having hot water every day, having a Coke in the refrigerator at any given moment, having warmth in their houses, having a soft bed to sleep on. Everything was taken away from them. They had none of that for 10, 11 days. And that's not easy. It was hard. But I saw these guys consistently turn up with optimism and laughter and joy and a sense of faith and a growing spirituality, despite the fact that everything that adds comfort to our lives had been taken away, that we had to eat beans and rice every day, and we had to face eggs 3 times a day, and we had to bathe in the river, and we didn't have a hot shower for 2 weeks. People bonded and felt like that wasn't the necessary part of their lives, and found the deep joy that's available and is present in Nueva Esperanza, which, you know, I thought there'd be some complaining. I thought people would say, I don't like this very much. I thought people would be, you know, not happy with what was going on there, but I consistently found people pulling together, enjoying the adventure, no matter what it was that they were getting up against, and taking it in stride and saying, yeah, we're up for this. This is worth it. This is giving us something. That's something that I don't often have that many people saying, yeah, let's go for it. This is so cool.
I think our group, with it actually being the first youth group to actually go down there, was very impressive to the people. I think they were very happy with the energy that the group was able to pose to the community, especially the youth of the community being able to actually associate more with the age of the members of the delegation, instead of having a bunch of adults there actually kind of almost talking down to some youth. I think they were able to kind of get on the same level with them and really work and relate with them. a little bit of a language barrier, but I think with the number of people that we had that could actually speak Spanish, we kind of crossed that bridge very, very early and gained their trust, and I think they enjoyed having a younger delegation. It's a little bit easier for them to relate with.
Our relationship with the people in Nueva Esperanza was of one that is very special. I think we're just as close to them as the people in our group were close. Different friendships of different kinds. Even though there was a language barrier, you can communicate with a smile.
The community itself, when we first arrived there, and they had that New Year's party, we were just sitting there. We weren't really connected. They were dancing, they were having their party, but we were in our rooms writing journals or doing something else, or just watching at a point and wishing to talk, or just looking at each other from different angles. But as the 4 days went on, we got more involved. We got to know each other. The youth spoke more among each other. They got to know the different ideas, the different dances, the different education, the different level of responsibility, the different level of the age when they get married, all that. By the time we were about to leave, everybody wasn't different anymore. Everybody found something that was similar to each other. Everybody found a way that they were connected to each other.
Well, the bonding was like going to a family reunion and seeing all of your cousins that you haven't seen in a while. And we just grew real close. And it was like we didn't want to leave the place. I don't know. It was just awesome.
One evening, we were supposed to have an organized meeting with the youth of the ACG, and they were supposed to come and talk with us a little bit, and we'd get to know them, and they'd get to know us, but we didn't really have enough time to do that, and so some of the youth came over later that evening, and we just talked for a couple hours, and we sang songs and played games and stuff, and we just had a lot of fun, and we really got to know each other. And then the next day's work was a lot easier. We knew each other, and we could talk to each other.
The one night that we spent talking with the youth through Dora and just finding out about them and them finding out about us. Not really anything significant, just asking them about their relationships with girls and ridiculous stuff like that. I think that we really connected with the youth better than a lot of the older adults, where it was just like them spitting out facts and stories at us, and we were just like, oh. But the youth, we played games with them and stuff like that. We taught them like ridiculous games, and like we did the hokey pokey, and they taught us like their version of Duck Duck Goose, and these are games that I haven't enjoyed since I was 5, but we had such a good time with them. I really thought that we made a connection, and then the dances just topped it off. So I thought we really bonded with their youth.
My group responsibility was the group's spokesperson. I was the one to introduce the entire group to the groups that we actually met. I've taken some Spanish in school, so, I tried to speak in Spanish. And that really helped me a lot, because it's kind of like the other people in the group, while the others were talking, it was kind of just like, okay, sit there, wait for the translator. But because I was getting actively involved in speaking in Spanish, it was easier for me to just, instead of waiting for the translator, to try to translate myself. And so it really opened it up a lot more for me.
It was very fitting that one of the first groups that we met with in Nueva Esperanza was the ACG, which is translated into the Guatemalan Christian Action. It was through this meeting that the group shared some of their stories, their struggles to live, and the humility that they went through that it brought us all, it kind of laid the groundwork for our trip, the relationship that we were forming with the community, and it gave us a real background to what these people had actually been through and the pain and suffering that they had to go through to get where they're at now. And it also gave a certain significance to the name Nueva Esperanza, because it told us that, yes, this really is new hope for them.
Several of the meetings that we listened in on, especially the ones where we actually participated and spoke with the people who talked to us, I was really fascinated by, even though it was kind of confusing to have it translated first and then listen and then respond and have it translated. But the ones for the educators, I was so shocked to hear how difficult it was for them to achieve, education in their community, when for us it was just a simple matter of getting up in the morning. And also we spoke with the one nun who was just so excited to talk to us, and it made it even more easy for us to tell her about our decisions to be there.
Sister Juana, and when she sat down and could not believe that youth were here in Nueva Esperanza, or there in Nueva Esperanza, to do work that they termed justice work, when she expected them at every opportunity to go out on the beach and want to go to the beach or a resort or something like that. And how her smile just got broader and broader as she explained how much hope this delegation gave her, that there is hope for the world in these kinds of youth who speak about justice and peace and do it very candidly as to why they are on this delegation.
The people and their faith and just how strong it is, and they've been through so much, and their lives have just been turned around, and yet through it all, their faith and belief in God and faith and belief in each other has just grown stronger and stronger, and they've gotten closer to each other and to God through their whole experience.
One of the benefits that I gained through being a part of this group, this mission trip, was a sense of knowing about what is happening in the outside world, being aware of it, and I think even more so being aware of the fact that, yes, as individuals here in the United States, we can make a difference. Our purpose was to go there simply as for accompaniment. When there is not international presence, the refugees or the returnees of the camp are in somewhat of danger from the military of Guatemala. When there is not international presence, it has happened that the military has come into the camp and has massacred or even just on a mild amount of intimidated the people so that they could show their power.
It's something I contemplate every day, and it's something I really think about every day, and a lot of it just keeps triggering in my head. Initially, going on the trip, not so much interested in the politics of Guatemala, not really knowing a lot of the politics of Southern Mexico, Guatemala, or anything that was really going on down there. The trip itself really sparked a lot of interest. It really drove a passion, basically, to learn more about it and see what can be done. And maybe that's including more involvement in GRM or other mission work. And that's some of the stuff that on a day-to-day basis just kind of kicks around your head, and you try to figure out what had an impact on me and what really, what that may signify. I mean, what it's really pushing for the future.
In Motocincla, where the peace accord signing took place in the parties, and I was on such a spiritual high there. I've never felt like that before, and seeing the people and in their festive costumes and doing the rituals and things like that, it was very moving to see that there might be peace. I think there hasn't been peace in 38, 39 years, and so this was hopefully the last.
I think the rituals are just a reminder that these folks are not only surviving, they're thriving. They are going to find a way to say, we are a people that have important traditions and important culture, and you may say that it doesn't matter, but for us, it is very, very important. I think Mototzintla was also important from the man who continued to hug me and tell me over and over again how much it meant for our presence to be there, that he knew people cared in another country. And I think we forget that. I think it shows in our, I know I forget it in my normal everyday life, that the most significant way God ministers to me is by God's presence. And sometimes we can forget that just by putting ourselves in a certain place, we speak of the love of God in a way that we never ever could. And those people heard that message, and they know that love. And the fact that we were there meant the world to this guy. I mean, many times as he hugged me, it meant the world to him.
Most North Americans, looking at people who have very little yet are very happy, are very moved by the meager amount of things that they have. I think that certainly was true for me. But I think that I was more deeply moved by a faith that understands how God was with them in this period of time where they were in the refugee camps. They identified with the exile in the Old Testament. As they came back, they understood their connection to Moses and the Exodus from Egypt. These people connect their story with the biblical story. And that's not always an easy connection. These people experience such great tragedy, yet they find in the scriptures signs of great hope. They were much more theologically oriented than many of the lay people that I often find in churches. Perhaps because they've been touched by such tragedy that they've had to look at their faith far more deeply than most of us. I wouldn't wish that kind of tragedy on anyone, but you can see the deep faith that's been produced by the horrible oppression and tragedies that have occurred in Guatemala. I was really moved to see how faith was a part of the healing process.
I think the group's relationship with the community of Nueva Esperanza is best described in a word that is often used as we talk about relating to people in Guatemala, is accompaniment. We went there less, in fact, to do a work camp, to build a basketball court, than to stand beside the Guatemalan people. And we ate with the Guatemalan people, with the families. We lived in their community. We worked alongside them. We got sweaty along beside them. We danced with them. We shared stories with them. We shared worship with them. We shared scripture with them. That's accompaniment. That's standing beside. We didn't hold ourselves out ahead of them and show them the light by any means. We went with a sort of vulnerability, a humbleness, to be able to not only help them with this basketball court, but to be open to them helping us in the development of our faith. So it was a sort of mutual exchange, which I describe as accompaniment and being beside. I think that would be the best way I could describe the relationship we developed with the people of Nueva Esperanza.
one thing that I felt was really remarkable to learn, mostly from observing the hospitality and the open reception of all of the Guatemalans to us. You know, we are complete strangers, and I know that if it were reversed and they were visiting America, that Americans would be not even close to as kind and generous as they were to us. And it was so promising to see that people in the world can be so giving and kind. And I hope that, you know, all of us can learn from this. And I know that we went back feeling that we were trying to broaden the ties between people from where we're from to just anywhere else in the world. And I thought it was a lot that they taught us, mostly about just being open to others in the world. And hopefully we will be able to continue that.
This trip for me truly was an incredible, awesome experience. And if I had the opportunity to do it again, I would do it in a heartbeat. And I think I would choose to do it again with a youth and young adult delegation. One, I have an incredible passion for youth ministry, and I feel that this is a very worthwhile way to connect our youth with the outside world. And I think that the trip is just such a transformational experience that it's a pretty awesome thing when you're a high schooler or a young adult, in your college years, to be able to say, I've done that. And you can look into that person's eyes as they talk about this and see the love, the excitement, and the emotion, and most of all the faith that's there. Yeah, I would do it again, and I wouldn't even think twice about it.
People really had made it a conscious effort to make this an experience of God. And that's the only way that I can describe it. And also, one of the things that I think was really important to me was that our missionary in southern Mexico felt extremely cared for on this delegation. That was an important part of group interaction for me, because when you're dealing with such poverty and oppression in Guatemala and southern Mexico, if you don't have faith experiences like that, where people support you and advocate for you, then you begin to lose hope. And that is one of the things that I do not want Paula and Bud, Josiah and Charlie to experience during their time there. That we in the States have to keep their hope up by showing them that we can be changed.